What's going on, people of the world? Welcome back. The Road Less Traveled, the podcast, the show, the online extravaganza. We've got Sky and Kristen in the mix. What's up, guys?
Hi.
How you doing, Pat?
Doing really well. Happy morning to you. And this is the place where we talk about business and entrepreneurship, and we enjoy some coffee and we enjoy some chat, and we dive deep on what we need to do for the next week to be successful. And it's also an opportunity for us to kind of communicate with the public about where we're going, what our goals are, and what we need to do to get there. And I think a lot of times when we're on these roads, we find ourselves out on our own, and there's no one really to talk to about this kind of stuff. And who do I go to talk about my struggles? Should I just bottle it up? And it's just the internet has given us an opportunity to put it all out there and to really explore who we are and who we're becoming. And I think it's important to find people that your message resonates with and that you want to build with and take off. So that's why we're here. So what's up with you guys? How's your week going?
Well, as far as work is concerned, got some pretty good stuff going on as far as the real estate businesses that we have right now. Working with some big players with some stuff to try to move some properties to try to get them some deals locked down for them. As far as our coffee stuff is concerned, the other business that we have, that's going exceptionally well. We have our labels done, our logos are done. We're just getting those over to the proofing section. Once those are good, and the artists and they put everything onto the package, make sure everything is all measured out right and everything's good. Like, we'll be able to start, getting some samples out for that and get a fresh look at the bag and stuff like that. So it's been a really good week as far as business has been concerned. As far as personal has been concerned, which is kind of the topic of today, and staying positive and stuff like that. It's been kind of a tough week, actually. It's been a little bit of a downer around here because of some situations here that are happening, in our personal life that we couldn't necessarily control, but we had to ride it out, I guess you could say. But at the end of the week, that ship has officially sailed. The rough waters of that are over. And now it's time to basically get back into the flow of things. Things are going to be a lot more different. Things are going to be a lot more upbeat. And I'm looking forward to that because I need a positive work environment. I need to be upbeat. I need to be able to move around. I need loud music playing. I need a lot of stuff. And for the longest time, I couldn't even do that. And now that I have that space available and everything is starting to come together, positivity is really starting to come into our lives a lot quicker than what I actually expected. And she can kind of go off of that a little bit.
You hear all the time, from some of the different, big influencers out there that are big in the business worlds, about how much your environment can actually affect you. And, unfortunately, it was a situation with somebody who was a very close friend of mine. And, I'm very much a people pleaser. I hate conflict. And, she was the same way. And we kept kind of skirting around things, not hitting the topic, not dealing with our issues that were coming up. And tension kept building, and tension kept building, and tension kept building. And our house just became, this ground of negativity and tension and stress. And I was having anxiety attacks on almost every other day by the end.
Daily basis. It was pretty bad.
It's hard to focus like that. So, we're kind of trying to, it's when you're in a very negative situation and your mind is very negative because of all the things that are happening around you, it's very hard to get that momentum to keep building, to keep pushing, to keep, on task with what we've been trying to do. And this podcast, even though we're very early on at it, has helped give that, redirection to help keep us there even through the harder stuff. But, I think that we can already feel, things are lifting a little bit. It's just kind of getting ourselves back.
That's awesome. And when it comes to being positive, I think what you were going to kind of say is that whole thing of mental and the whole thing of environment and the whole thing of what people don't see is what we're kind of bringing into the light. And it's becoming more and more evident to me that the personal development that we do on ourselves, everybody's at a different part of their journey, right? So like, you know, everyone talks about, don't compare yourself, but I mean, when you pull up your phone, I mean, all you see is what you see, right? So that can be really,
Absolutely.
really hard, and you can kind of get down on yourself. But I think it's important to remember that where you're going is awesome, and where you've been, you might look back and say you're not happy with some of the things you've done, but where you are is where you are. And it's important to like kind of consume that moment and kind of step into that moment. And that's something over the last couple of weeks I've really had the opportunity to do, especially with these podcasts, being someone who's now doing this with multiple different people. But I was also highly selective with who I did it with, because I want this to be something that grows not only for us, but for the viewers and for the audience and for the people that are taking this in, to understand that like where you are on your journey now is just whatever chapter you're on is okay. You might be on chapter 3 of your real estate journey, and you don't want to get too over the top with comparing or something like, to Raphael, who's one of both of our mentors at this point, different areas of life. But, he's in a different area than I am in one spot, and I'm in a different area than him in another spot. And it's just important to remember that being positive and stepping into those moments and understanding there's power in right now in these moments, and discovering that can be challenging because we're looking down the line. I'm sure you want 50 deals a frickin' every 2 months. And I'm sure that that's a goal that you could possibly achieve, and building out a team and all this kind of stuff. I have that problem too sometimes, where I look too far down the line, and it's like, listen, you've got some great people you're working with, and you're doing amazing things, and you're bringing people a positive message. I get people that message me all the time that say, hey, I'm changing these things in my life because of you, and my life's better. And sometimes we don't realize what we're doing until way later down the line. And I was interviewing my friend Scott Duffy, who worked with Tony Robbins, and he told me that one of the things Tony told him was, you have good days and you have bad days. And sometimes you don't know if it's a good or a bad day until way down the line, when it all pans out. That day that was a bad day might turn out to be the best thing that happened to you. And while that lesson can be kind of hard to swallow, because it's like, oh my gosh, this was such a bad day. 6 months later, the bad day that I had in December, where certain people walked away from me, ended up being the best thing that happened to me going into February. So it's important to remember that the world is kind of rotating us in the right direction, along with the way that it moves on its own,
It's very easy to get caught up in the day-to-day trials and tribulations. And, when you're looking and, because you want to follow and you want to see what all these, the people who've made it have gotten, how they got there.
Right.
But it's so hard to be like, all right, I'm here at this level, and how do I get to that next level sometimes? Because you just want to get there, and
Right.
I find that even with, patients that I see, I always talk to them about how it's never fast enough. Recovery is never fast enough for people that I see on a day-to-day, and it's never fast enough for us to grow what we know and what we see in our future. It's never going to be fast enough to get there. And it's so easy to get bogged down, but, so many people, you hear like Raf's story, about how it was this one major thing, where massive life situation that was a horrible day that took him into the whole new direction that led him to where he is now.
Right.
And there's so many people that it's the same way for. It's like, they have to hit that bottom level before, they have to hit that bad day, or those multiple bad days are what push them to the point where they bounce back up, and it sucks. Nobody wants to think about heading that bad day or heading, you don't want bad days. You don't want to be sad. You don't want to be angry. You don't want to be, as a human, those aren't emotions you enjoy, but they have their purpose, and, they
Right.
give that power behind you to keep moving and to push forward. So,
And that can be great fuel too. I know that a lot of things that happened to me that I didn't want to happen to me, I accepted that some of it wasn't in my control. A lot of these decisions that other people have made in the past affected me because I was either working for certain companies or I was an production manager contracting for some other company that made a decision that lost us a big deal, and now I'm not working with this artist that I became friends with. There's so many different um, factors that go into what happens to us that we can't control everything, you know? And I think being present and creating solutions is important. And another thing about me is I'm so hardwired with energy that sometimes, like, and I'm an artist too. I'm a creator and a singer and a songwriter and a producer and an event person. And it's like, man, I'm a real emotional type of dude. So sometimes controlling and harnessing those emotions is really, really hard. And I'm sure there's a gazillion quotes out there. One of them has like Warren Buffett's name on it. I don't know if he said it, but like controlling your emotions is really important. If you have an emotional reaction to everything, you're going to go crazy over the littlest things. And
absolutely.
so staying positive and understanding that, we're still here. We're doing something. We're trying to make an impact. We're doing something positive, not only for ourselves, but for other people. And that's why we started this. And that is the road less traveled, because it'd be way easier to just be like, I'm just going to focus on wholesaling and I'm going to make as much money as possible. And I don't care about any of that other stuff. And you know what? No one would blame you, Sky. Really.
No, I don't think anyone would blame you with that, because for those people that don't understand what wholesaling or real estate can do for you, it can make you very good money. But what a lot of people don't understand is the amount of work and sacrifice that you have to do for it, especially with wholesaling. Like RAF is a great example that shows like the work behind everything, where if you go on social media and you see other stuff, they promise you'll get however many deals within the first week or whatever, just by doing one or two things. They don't take into account all the calling you have to do, all the messages you have to send, all the negotiating tactics you have to do, all of the setting up appointments. Like there's a lot of stuff. And if you can't be there for any of it, it makes it twice as hard, and you have to work twice as hard, to get those types of deals done. And to go off of kind of like what you guys are saying, like a positive thing, or, you take something away from a negative to turn it into a positive. When I left RAF's event with wholesaling to learn how to do it, he touched on JVing a little bit with working with others, but if you want to make it big, you get your own deals and stuff like that. And when I got done with it, I came through and I was like, okay, I'm going to get as many deals as I can by myself. And I was struggling with it. Even though RAF gave me all the tools, I still didn't understand stuff. I was just like, man, this is hard, because I didn't know anything about real estate. Like I was brand new to it. And one day I just told myself, man, I wonder if there was some way that someone else could just like give me just that little extra push. So I actually reached out to RAF that day and I was like, hey man, like I'm struggling here. Is there something that I could be doing different? And he's like, I don't say this a whole lot, but go ahead and, JV with our team. And I'm like thinking, oh, okay, I'm going to be working with people who are so much better than me, who are literally just going to blow me away with stuff. And that kind of was the case. They helped me a little bit, and they were so happy with the way that I do my work ethic, as far as finding buyers for them, getting contracts for them, like all that type of stuff. And right now, like the guy who I work with, Martin, Aaron, and Tarek, like all those guys, they've all said the same thing. Like everybody in their office knows who I am, and I don't even work for them. Like I'm not part of their team.
You don't even live in Florida.
No, that's the thing. I don't even live there.
It's
like,
awesome.
I literally am, hundreds of miles away, and yet they always bring their deals to me. Like, hey, we have this. Help us push this. You are an incredible worker. You need to help us push this. And I'm doing that, and that's where I'm getting all of the money aspects and also all of the knowledge and experience that I need. And it's helping a lot. And it all came from me putting my ego aside that I do need help with something and I can't do everything by myself. And for me, I love doing things by myself. If I fail at something, I love to figure it out myself. And, for me, like asking for help, that has been a negative in my life. Like I don't want other people's help. And
He doesn't play well with others.
no, I really don't. Like if I go into a sandbox, I'm going to kick everybody else out of it and I'm going to take all the shovels, everything, and I'm just going to shoot people away. But for me, that day when I asked him for help and he brought in other people to help me, that turned a negative day into a very positive experience because now things are really starting to flow. And now I can take all that I've learned and I can start to focus on building my team here in a couple months because that's where it's headed now. So
That's beautiful, dude. And I think that sometimes in our journey to, kind of find ourselves or kind of bust tail and get in with who we need to get in or network or get our foot in the door, all these kinds of things, we can find ourselves in a negative place and we don't even realize it until maybe it's too late at sometimes. And what I've always noticed is being a musician and somebody who like my tasks are like my tasks. So like if I book a gig and I drive and I play the gig, like I'm by myself for however many hours. And so when you do that week after week after week after week, month after month after month, year after year after year, traveling on the road and all over the place, playing your guitar and singing and stuff. And I didn't have a band. I was just a solo artist. And it's just like, man, after a while, it's just like, is this really what I want the rest of my life to be like? Like, I like being at home. Do I really need to drive all over God's green earth to play music and to impact people? And I think that with the internet and with YouTube and Facebook and Instagram and especially these podcast sites and stuff, we've got an opportunity now to continue to do what we love to do and to continue to use it as part of our brand and monetize it and not have to even leave our home. Like, because it's a better, more positive environment for me to be here and do it and to do it at events and stuff like that. So I kind of changed the environment that I was putting on my show at. And that's kind of how we met, was because I started targeting business conferences that go on during the day. And I started targeting, business happy hours that go on at hotels instead of music venues. So I changed my target. And Cardone talks about this a lot, as you never lower your targets. You might have to change what you need to do to get there. You might have to change the strategy. You might have to change your tactics, but you should never lower your target. And I think that sometimes when we're pushing and we're pushing and we're pushing so hard, we're willing to take less than what we're worth, or we're willing to take what's easier or comfortable, so just to get the job done and stay busy, even though it's maybe having a negative impact on everything else.
Yeah, I agree with that.
You know what I'm saying? So I think for a long time I pushed so hard to be a touring musician and a full-time musician that I was leaving other opportunities behind that could have benefited me more. And I just stopped doing that. And when I stopped doing that, I was way more successful.
I think you kind of end up with like a one-track mind, when you
Right.
get so focused on that one thing, it's it becomes your sole focus, and you don't allow anything that's coming by you really in at that point, and that's something that I think that I've done for a long time. And it took Sky kind of waking me up to the other opportunities that were around me, and, for me, I think he started seeing me get very frustrated in my job because, I work crazy hours and, I'm on the road all the time, going from home to home, and I cover a very large area, and, so it is a lot. I'm in Northern Virginia traffic, which is some of the worst. I think we're second behind like LA or something.
Oh,
yeah.
man.
So I'm sitting in that tension all the time for hours a day. And then, I'm so much on everybody else's schedule. I've got, I'll go see a patient, and then I've got holes here, and then I'll go see and him asking me to start becoming part of what he's doing started getting me to see, that wasn't everything that I had to do, that there's an actual maybe, options for me where I can spend more time with him. I can spend more time with the family that we hope to have, and because that's a big thing for us. So.
Yeah. And I think that when you're like, yeah, and again, it's different for everybody, but when you're giving and you're giving and you're giving and you're giving yourself on this road over here, you don't have a chance sometimes to go or you just don't even have the energy to exert it on a different path, because it's like, I spent so much time, 14 hours today. I drove up to, speaking of LA, I lived in San Diego for a long time, played music all over the Southern California coast. And I drove all the way to LA and I played this gig. And then I went to the other hotel and played the happy hour for that. There were days where I played 3 jobs in one day. So I have like a little speaker. I don't have it in here. It's just like a handheld speaker, like a box. It's got 4 speakers in it, and you can plug in your microphone and your guitar. So I'd like plop it on the stand and play 1 gig at the Marriott for brunch and like wherever, Santa Monica, and then move over and do a conference for, happy hour at another place. And then on the way home, play in Laguna Beach at Hennessy, like literally 3 gigs in one day. And it's a Sunday and my wife's home with our newborn. And it's just like, there was no time to invest into the relationship, because now it's become, it's either like be a musician or like be a dad. And it's like, why can't I do both? So I had to change my strategy, change my tactics, find a different road so that I could do all of these things. And that's part of the reason why we had to make a decision as a family unit to relocate to an area where we can have a home with a studio and where I can use all these production and musical talents to provide service to people and to be there for my family. Once we're done with this, I can produce the episode, make our clips. We have an impact on people, and I can go hang out with my daughter and watch the Super Bowl today. I think that's important for dad to be home. And while I was home during the day, when I had like music gigs at night during the week, it wasn't time for like me and my wife. Like you just said, there was no us time. And so as much as I pushed so hard down that road to achieve that dream and to make a full-time schedule playing music in California happen, once I achieved it, it was like, okay, well, what else can I do with this talent?
Mm-hmm.
What else is there? I already played the biggest business event on the planet, the Super Bowl of business events. What else can I bring to events now? What do I have to, I do this stuff to prove it to myself. I'm not like out there trying to prove myself to everyone else. So what else can I prove to myself? What other impact can I have? If I can go out there and use my guitar in the corner of my room to put out content and get on these huge stages, I mean, what can members of our audience do? Anything. Like this wholesaling thing that you're talking about. I mean, I'm sure that'll all work out for you, and you'll have a team, and you'll be rolling, and you'll be inspiring people, and this coffee product that you're releasing is going to get out there, and we're going to continue to do this show and impact people. And it's just where you're at in one moment might feel like everything you've ever worked for, and maybe it is, and you can achieve that. It's possible. I've been there. I've done it so many times where I'm standing on the edge of something that I've always wanted to do. And I'm like, well, am I really going to jump off this edge and go to the next thing? I didn't even realize there was a next thing until I took the action, went down that hard to travel road, achieved it, and then moved forward. Mm-hmm. So it's like this constant moving forward. And I think I enjoyed every single moment of everything I ever did. And once I didn't enjoy it anymore, that's when I made changes. That's when I made shifts. And if you allow yourself to get stuck and you're not happy and you're not positive and it's not fun anymore, and then it's time to make a change. And there is opportunity out there for you. If you look around, pull yourself, almost kind of look at yourself from the outside and say, what else can I bring to the table? And that can be a tough realization. I think that's something, Kristen, you're going through right now.
It is. It's, and it's a very scary thing, to go from something that, I mean, part of I got 2 master's degrees because I just kept deciding I wanted something different. Nothing ever really felt quite right. My undergraduate, I originally started out as a bassoon performance major. And then I changed and started doing arts management with a bassoon performance minor. And then I went and got my first master's in arts entertainment and media management. And then I did that for about 2 years. And I said, not really stable enough. Don't get to see my family. I'm working crazy hours. I'm spending most of what I was doing at that time was cold calling, and I hated it. And I was like, all right, let me see what else I want to do. I ended up going and working retail as a manager for a couple of years. And then I decided to go back to school and I became an occupational therapist, and I'm working retail at the same time. And, it's weird because I think that part of me makes these big jumps that a lot of people wouldn't take. I've lived in a bunch of different cities that I've moved to by myself. I've changed careers because I realized I wasn't happy. But at the same time, a lot of choices I made were from comfort. I was good at music. That's why I became a music major. And then, I wanted to have stability because maybe I wasn't going to be that good in performance. So I started doing arts management because that made sense. And then, those are the types of things that kind of started. It wasn't because I took that leap of faith. It wasn't until, but throughout those different times, I had these dreams of starting my own company, but I never had the guts to pull the trigger on them. We were going through, because we were cleaning out in the house, and we found an old business plan that I wrote when I was in college for a record label and concert venue.
Quite the site, let me tell you.
And I had it fully written out and developed. And then, there was another one that I did during my first graduate program that was about, a youth program dealing with the arts and people trying to help people have voices in the world around them. And, but I had these great ideas, but I never had the guts to pull the trigger. And so, it's been very scary for me. And it's been hard some days for me to stay positive because, it's that unknown. It's that I don't do well with the unknown. I've never have. I panic, I worry. And so I'm trying to learn how to focus on, when I start having that anxiety or that panic, or that negative thought, I'm starting to try and think of, what are 2 or 3 positive things that are happening? Or I go on social media and I look at these people and I look for the stories, Ed Milet, I look for Raf, I look for Grant Cardone, I look for some of these other women that I'm starting to follow, and the messages that they're sending. And it's like, all right, I'm going to say 3 positive things that are happening today, to help me get me out of this.
Right.
I'm going to try, but it's hard to change your mindset.
Yeah.
It's scary to change the mindset you've had for 30 some years.
Yeah. And I think it's a programming thing. And I think, I don't know. I've watched so many of these motivational videos and stuff at this point. I get them jumbled up, but almost like reprogramming your brain. So like almost tricking yourself into believing this thing when you have a whole bunch of work to do to get it. But you can almost like I think it's Tom Bilyeu said, like, your body, the human body, is made to adapt to like practically anything. Mm-hmm. So as long as you're willing to consistently like do the work and like convince yourself and do the work and convince yourself, it's almost like some people call it like fake it till you make it. But if you're not doing the work, you're not ever going to make it. So like do it until you make it. Like almost convince yourself, hey, this is going to happen. This is going to happen. And then do the work that it takes and the results will show up. It was the same thing with
Absolutely.
like the music stuff. When I first left St. Louis and moved to Arizona to go to school for audio production, and I was like, oh man, I'm going to be working, traveling all over the world, doing all this stuff with all kinds of different musical artists, the biggest people in the world. I know exactly what company I'm going to work for. I know exactly the program that's going to get me the internship, and that's why I'm going to this school. And people were like, you're leaving home? That's like, yeah, and that's what it's the road less traveled is the road that's going to give you the most growth. So when you feel these uncomfortable feelings or these panic feelings or these negative feelings, that's really a signal of growth. It's a signal that you're going through some kind of growth process. And I'm telling you, I learned all this bullshit the hard way because I never wanted to listen to these signs. I just wanted to keep pushing through them, which worked because I kept pushing. Great. But identifying these signs and identifying these feelings and identifying these emotions came to me when I actually started looking for how to describe what I was feeling rather than just feeling it. And that's where I started to be able to start to separate my reaction to those feelings, my emotional reaction to these things, and just realize that this is just part of the process. Sometimes that stuff used to bog me down. There were nights where I'd sit in my car outside of a gig in Laguna Beach and like be so upset because I hadn't seen my kid all day. It was Sunday and my wife's got to go to work the next day. And then I'm going to be exhausted because I got to play until 2 a.m. And this is everything I ever wanted. The beach is right there. I'm about to go play my guitar and sing and get paid for it. And I was miserable. So
I think all of that can also kind of coincide into something that I want to say with for being positive, taking away bad negatives and stuff. But what I've learned throughout business and also just personal life and so forth, as far as growing and evolution, like I've worked a lot of jobs myself. Every job that I've ever basically started, I've literally the basement floor. Like most people like to start at the ground floor with stuff. Like I've started at the basement floor. But I think what got me to, in almost every job that I've had, I've gotten to pretty much the top position. And it's not just my work ethic, but it's also something that I feel that people kind of overlook. And that's willing to help other people. Like if you're willing to put other people ahead of your stuff that you want to do, your stuff will come. The example that I'll give you, like we were talking off camera last week, was my bouncing career that I had. So I started as a floor mopper, basically. I signed up to go to a new nightclub that was in our area, and they said they're hiring bouncers. And I'm like, oh, sweet. Like, I'm going to be able to fight people. I'm going to look at pretty girls. Like, there's going to be awesome stuff.
I'm going to be able to fight.
Yeah. And then when I get there, they're like, okay, yeah, we'll have you you'll dress as one, but your main thing, you're going to be wiping countertops, and you're basically going to be a hired busboy that looks like a bouncer. And at first I was so pissed off. I'm like, man, you're false advertising, you're lying, like you shouldn't be doing this. But, I needed something to do during the night, make a little extra money, whatever. So I'm like, all right, fine, I'll do it. So I started doing that. And then all of a sudden I started seeing like what the front people at the door were doing. Like they were checking IDs and stuff. I'm like, that looks easy. I'm going to learn how to do that. So I went to the guy who was doing it. I'm like, tell me how to fake IDs versus real IDs. And he showed me some clues and stuff. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to start doing this. I'm tired of mopping floors. So I started doing that almost better than anybody else in that club was doing. Like I was real persistent with it and I was having fun with it. Where like the people at the door was like, ID please. And if it was a fake or whatever, they're like, nope, you can't come in. I came and I changed the whole mindset of those people. I'm like, why don't you guys try being a little bit more cordial towards stuff? Hey, you look like you might be a little bit young. Can I see your ID? Oh, this is a fake one. Yeah, I can't let you in right now, but maybe your next birthday you can come in or something. Something to play off, things like that. And people remembered that. because I was a bouncer for about 3 years at that place, and a couple of people were under 21 and they had to be 21. But because of that positive experience I brought with those people, they ended up coming back. Some of those people where they just gave them a fake ID, and the other dudes were like, "Get the hell out of here." You think we ever saw those people again after they turned of legal age? No, we really didn't do that. So then on top of that as well, after being the door greeter and the ID person, where I'm like, I can do so much better with this in this profession. I'm going to be the top guy at this club. And I went to our top guy and I'm like, what do I got to do to get into your position? And don't take offense to this, but what do I have to do to overtake your position so you can basically work for me? And he laughed at me and he's like, you'll never take my spot. And I'm like, I bet you within 6 months I do. And he's like, all right, you're on. So we had kind of a little bet. We're friends now, but we had a little bet going where that I was going to basically take his job within 6 months. And within 2 months, I took it. And the reason being is because I changed the dynamic of how that club was run, how the bouncers interacted with people. If there was a problem, come people see me. I'm not going to be this intimidating personality with like looking down and being like, you need to stop right now or whatever. It's, hey, what's the problem here? We don't want to have any trouble. We want to make sure everything is safe for everybody.
Right. We want a positive environment.
Exactly. And we took that because we were known for a while, because a lot of the bouncers who was there, my number one and my number two guys, they were both professional kickboxers from Ukraine. And they were 6'6". So if you mess around with them, you were going to get your butt kicked. But the funny thing was, after 2 months and I took over, people were more afraid of me than they were them because of how I handled my situation. But I brought it into a positive situation. If there was a problem, it was known, oh God, we're going to have to talk to this guy. Not everybody knew my name, but we're going to have to talk to this guy. He's going to give us a fair shake. But if we don't, we might get something.
Yeah, he's going to get everybody. He's going to get
exactly
to judo
so,
throat.
Yeah. So the thing that I think out of that whole message is, if you decide to move up in the ladder with anything that you do, and that was just one example. I've got tons of others that I'll share on other stories maybe, or other podcast episodes. But if you go into things looking to help people and make things a better experience for other people, you're going to reap the rewards for yourself. And that's kind of what has been happening to me. Instead of looking at myself, help other people. With wholesaling right now, helping the other guys with Raph's company. Look at that. I'm known in that office. Everybody knows my name. All the buyers in my area, they know who I am. They seek me out for deals. Like that's what you got to do, instead of just worrying about yourself. In this day and age, I fear that everybody's out for themselves, and that's why people are getting screwed, taken advantage of, and I just don't think it's right.
Oh, dude. And it's so good that you brought that up. And that's a great thing for us to kind of send everybody off on. Is I talk about how I've played these gigs and I've been on stage with Cardone and these guys, Ed Milet and these guys. And I'm proud of that, mainly because the reason why that happened is because I wrote songs for everyone else. The songs that got me on those stages were advertisements about someone else. It was me singing it, but it was completely just me having fun and singing an ad or a verify this person or a come to this meetup or whatever. Most of the stuff that got me in the biggest beneficial situations for myself were because I did those things for free for somebody else. Mm-hmm. That's it. That's how it worked. People message me and text me and ask me all these questions. It's like, how'd you get hooked up with this? And it's like, well, actually, I offered to do something for that person in exchange for them giving me the opportunity to do it.
Exactly.
And
bring
instead,
to the table
instead of me saying, hey, here's my list of things that I'm going to need, and then I'll do it. It's like, I just did it. And I kept asking for the opportunity to do it more, the opportunity to do it bigger, the opportunity to build that relationship instead of, hey, how much can I get paid to do this? Or, hey, what can you give me? It's like, no, I'm going to give you all of this, and all you got to do is let me on stage.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. That's all I'm asking for, is the opportunity to go up there and have a great time. So I encourage people to think about, that's a positive approach. If you approach people positively and you bring something to the table and you say, hey, this is how I can help you. If you allow me to do that at the highest maximum freaking blow through the roof level that I can do it, it's going to help us both.
Oh,
And that's how you're going to get positive results. And it's work. A lot of positive results are coded in work, and they're coded in investing time and investing money and investing your skills. But the positive results are on the other side of those investments.
mm-hmm. And if I could just add something real small to that too, just so everybody doesn't think that we're just going to it with a positive attitude, do the work and everything will be hunky dory. Like,
right.
Be sure to understand, that there are going to be times where you're going to go in, you're going to think everything is great, you've provided awesome value, and they're going to turn around, they're just going to be like, no, or they're going to be like, yeah, not right now. So always understand the value of the follow-up as well. Once you give them some great value, touch base with them again and see if they're interested again. I mean, as far as cold calling is a great example, especially like within real estate. Sometimes you call somebody the first time and you think it's a home run, and then the next time you call them and your deal falls through. Then there's other times where you call somebody, on the 10th time you try to pitch your thing to it, like, this is what I can offer you, this is the situation I'm going to get you out of, and it's the 10th time and they're like, okay, now I'm ready to go. So always be willing. It goes off of doing the work, but at the same time, go into it knowing that not everything will be a home run, but if you consistently are pursuing with everything, sooner or later something's going to happen. You just have to be willing to take a couple no's, because it is going to happen. Like, nobody's going to say yes every single time, because if that were the case, everybody would be a gazillionaire, but that's not the case.
Absolutely.
Ask Grant. Grant knows all about being told no. That's for sure.
And I think that one of the messages that he put out at that event I was at, I was sitting there in the crowd, and he went up there, and it was like the beginning of the conference, 10,000 people there. And he's like, man, I've dreamed about this for 30 years. It took me 30 years to make this dream happen. Mm-hmm. And it's like, I've lost partners, I've lost friends, I've had people steal from me, I've had people rip me off, take my ideas, this and that. I mean, we went down the line, and guess what? If it happened to me, it's going to happen to you guys.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
This is what it takes. It's just that most people don't talk about what it takes. They just want to show you the end result and sell you on the end result. When in reality, it's a whole lot of work. It's a whole lot of filling in that gray area with a whole lot of work. And, choosing to be positive. Positivity, you can choose to be positive. It's a choice in those hard moments, in that gray space of getting where you want to go, or executing on your vision, or even if it's just getting, an upgrade of a pair of shoes that you want. You have to choose to be positive to get that result. You got to be happy in the shoes you're in to get the next pair of shoes.
Right.
And it can be hard sometimes, but
there was a video that I think you watched it as well this week, from Ed Milet, that he talked about how, he had gone from having a lot of money and then lost it all to the point where he was, but instead of letting that break him and get him going back out to, corporate world, he continued to remain focused, and he built himself back and even bigger and better, and it's, not letting the no's crush you and crush your dream, because they're going to happen. I mean, I always joke with him, I'll be like, how many cold calls did you do today? And he'll tell me, and I'll be like, well, it's a numbers game. You're going to get a lot of no's, and you're going to probably get 100 no's to that one yes. But you know what? It's that numbers game.
It's totally a numbers game. And if you go to my YouTube channel, there's hundreds and hundreds of little funny acoustic jingles of me just singing little funny tunes. And most people were like, "Oh man, it's really funny, but like, is that really like great for your brand? Like, is that really ever like going to do anything for you? I mean, it's kind of stupid, right?" And I'm like, "Well, it's goofy and it's stupid and it's silly because that's how I'm learning how to do this on command, how to make these videos in 30 seconds." So then when hey, if you're an artist or a creator, Grant Cardone posted on his Instagram, say, "Hey, if you're an artist or a creator, I need content." Who was the quickest person? Me, because I practiced it, because I stayed positive throughout the process thinking, hey, if I get quick enough at this skill, if I get good enough at making these videos, I don't even need a guitar. It could just be me and you talking. That's why the podcast clip out videos that are going to be on our page are going to look sharp.
Mm-hmm.
Because I practiced that over and over and over and over and over and over and over to get quick at it, because I know that is going to help other people outside of me.
Exactly.
And now it is. And now it's like that's like my whole thing now. And so I think it's important to remember that you're going to see it first before anybody else does. Whatever the result is, whatever you want in life, you're going to see it first. And, you know, you're better off to just go after it and not even try and explain it to everyone else, because they're not going to understand it until they see the instant replay. And that was what I was telling people too. I was the guy playing it at brunch, telling everybody, just wait, I'll be doing a super jump at this stage in the frickin' Mandalay Bay Arena, and I'll show you the video when it's done, and then you'll understand what I'm talking about. And they're like, okay, Pat. And now I have that video. So it's not so crazy anymore. You got to understand that the stuff that you see in your head, only you understand it. It's going to be really hard to like vocalize that or get a pat on the back from people. And it's almost not even them dissing you. It's that they don't get it until they see it.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
No, I completely understand that. I'll do a shameless plug here right now. People will probably call me crazy, stupid, whatever the case is, but the coffee company that we're going to be bringing in, I'm not mentioning it right now, but down a couple more episodes, you know, we'll get the unveiling of it and so forth. But our goal, she even looked at me when I told her what I wanted to do is get crazy, is I want it to be more well known than Starbucks. And people would probably say there's no way possible. That is a pipe dream plus tenfold. Like there's no way that could possibly happen. And I would say to them, well, okay, that's your opinion. My opinion is I'm going to work to make sure that it can be that way. And the reason being that it can be that way is because the target that we're going after are going to be the people who are not just stuck in corporate America. I think there's more people out there like us that they're just not out there yet. And if we can bring them out and bring everyone together over coffee, that's going to open up the floodgates for everybody else. Instead of seeing Starbucks everywhere or 8 o'clock or whatever the case is, you're going to see this particular brand of coffee as the fueling for them to us get into groups, get into, you know, more coffee shops to bounce ideas off, host meetings and stuff, vlogs, whatever the case is. It's going to be something that brings us, the entrepreneurial people, together. And if you think about it, the world is based on entrepreneurs who literally took massive action. It's not like all of a sudden a building just appeared. You know, somebody came up with that idea. They said, screw it, I'm going to make sure this is what is going to happen. And they went with it. And then they just give the opportunities to other people. Well, I feel there's a lot more people out there that have these ideas that want to get out there and do it. They're just afraid to. And if we can just bring them out slowly, even through coffee, the world is going to be even better, as opposed to just a bunch of drones. We're going to have a lot more queen and kings out there. And that's kind of what we're going for.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that whole thing up because that is the entire movement behind this podcast is for people to join us on this road less traveled that we talk about because it is lonely. And I think that when I started to talk about this kind of stuff on my Facebook page after never talking about feelings, I was just the happy music guy, and there's like this whole other side of me that I never talked about online. And once I started putting that out there, like everything for me started to change. Everything for me started to shift. And it was crazy how quick it happened, but it happened fast. And it was because people wanted to hear someone that had the big stage experience tell them that that's not going to make you happy. You have to make you happy. I'm telling you, you could work with all the biggest artists in the world and play all the biggest stages and meet all the biggest, richest influencers and do all of this stuff. Like, I've met a lot of them and I've run a lot of their shows and I've traveled to a lot of places. And I made a decision on what I needed to do for me to be happy. And I'm happier now than I've ever been. And when I had all of those things, there was still this emptiness of once the show's over, like, well, what else is there? It's like, well, dude, you're living this dream that you always have. Like, be full in it. And I wasn't, because I was always, well, what's next? What's the next city? What's the gear list look like? I'm consumed with this idea of what's next. Where's the next big if I just get in with these people, then I'll be successful and then I'll be happy and then I'll the happiness is like the journey is the destination. Like, we're always looking for this destination. The destination is right now.
That's why you see a lot. Apparently a fly just came into our screen. But
sorry, there was
That's
a bug
awesome.
there. Scared the crap out of me.
Hey,
but
it
I
happens.
think that's why you see a lot of like the real like Grant Cardone and Ed Milet and stuff. You see them, they reached that next level and then they set that next bar and they set the next bar because it's not enough for them just to get where they are. For a lot of people, they would be happy with, $1 million or, having their own brand that, having 1 million followers or, but these people, they keep growing, they just they're not satisfied. They're always hungry.
Right.
And that's what I think makes them what they are, is that hunger, that continued drive.
Right. And I would also say that, I know people that have a couple thousand followers that have impacted hundreds of thousands of lives. And so just remember, your journey and your destinations and your goals and your visions are different than everybody else's. So while we like this person or that book, or we like this person and that podcast, you might be like, I can't stand that person. That's okay. That's okay. That's part of the cool thing about this is we're eventually going to bring people on and we're going to talk about all this kind of stuff with other people and guests and potentially, customers of the brand. And I think it's important for us. What Sky was really getting at is that we want to create a culture. We want to create a community, and we want to create a movement of real people, okay, that maybe never came online and said, I want to do this, or I want to become that, or I want to become an author, or I want to become this. You might have our famous t-shirt idea inside your brain, and it never would come out if you weren't a part of our culture. And guess what? We're going to give you tons of credit for that, because that's what we want to create. And so not only is this an opportunity for us to grow, but we want this to be an opportunity for other people to grow. So when we say be positive, it's for everyone out there to understand that, like, man, we deal with the same struggles and with the same growing pains. All of us do. Whether you're the biggest, most positive influencer on the internet, or you're, little old Pat in his studio room in his house, we all deal with these similar pains. And that was the common bond that I've had with all these people that I've met is that I always just showed up and just did me. And that was part of the reason, and that is part of the reason why it works, is because I'm not really focused on being anybody but me. And so that resonates with people. And once I started talking about who I really am, who I'm really becoming, and what's going to make and keep me happy, I think that my message started to resonate a lot more than just doing music, because I feel like at some point it just was like, I'm just going to keep doing music and just don't talk about that stuff. Don't talk about feelings or where you want to go in success or entrepreneurship. There's enough people talking about that. And it's like, no, dude, actually, it's probably time to open up a little bit and let people know that all those big lights and millions of followers and millions of dollars and all this kind of stuff, it's not going to make you happy unless you're happy in all the moments that it takes to get there. Because you can have all those things and be empty. Because I've run into both sides, people that are empty and people that are hugely fulfilled in giving back to people. I would not have been able to get on the 10X event if Grant wasn't so passionate about giving back to people that work hard. Mm-hmm. That didn't just come to me because I'm famous or something like that, or that I have millions of dollars of, business earnings and all this passive income. It's like, no, this dude's willing to do the work. He's coachable, he's energetic, and he's positioning it in a way that's going to benefit everyone. That's why I got the deal. So I think it's important to just be you. There's all this talk about branding these days and how's the best way to brand yourself. And I did a podcast show with Steve Sims, who works with Elon Musk and Elton John and all these people. That episode will be released soon. And as he said, literally the best way to brand you is to just be you.
I think though that, and it's something maybe we'll tackle more in something later, but you and I know Sky as well, you guys are both very comfortable in you. But I think that, something that I always struggled with was, I got so lost in becoming what everybody else around me wanted.
Right.
Part of my process with this whole change and with us launching these things is me finding me, which is not an easy process. Trying to tear away all these layers that I've put on of, being, this kind of daughter because I didn't want my parent, I don't want to tell my parents about everything that we're doing right now because I don't want them to worry. Being this kind of person to these friends, being this kind of person at work, being this kind of person here, and there's so many layers that, and I've had these conversations with Sky a lot lately, is that, I'm working on trying to peel everything back and trying to find that thing that is me inside. And, I think that's one of the things I'm using this podcast for as well is, and I hope there are a lot of people out there that realize that, you may not know who you are underneath all these different layers, because society has kind of, let us, taught us that, we have to be a certain type of person. We have to look a certain way. We have to act a certain way. We have to do things a certain way, to speak a certain way and feel a certain way. And that's just not true.
I totally agree.
So, it's a journey though, and it's a struggle and it's hard. And, I just want people to know that, and I think it's incredible that both these guys know who they are, and they are amazing, role models for me, even just, in trying to discover who exactly I am. But, it's okay. We're trying to figure it out. And I'm trying to finally feel that way, that it's okay that I don't fully have all the answers for myself yet, but I'm getting there.
I think it's important to remember that we're all in a growth stage. And like I said, I'm still figuring out a lot of stuff too. And I think that I'm also talking about a lot of stuff that I talked to behind the scenes. Like we talk about these business events. I talked about all this kind of stuff behind the scenes, but I never really talked about it on camera because I was just like, well, this isn't really what I'm putting out. This isn't like who I'm branding myself as. And it's like, well, it's you. This is you. This is your story. This is what you've done. This is you. Mm-hmm. And so those feelings and all the stuff that you're talking about, that's you. And it's coming out now because you're turning the light on and saying, this is who I am. And we are doing it in a positive way. And while we are kind of unraveling some of these things that hold us back and unraveling some of these things that make it hard and unraveling these goals and these visions and how are we going to get there and how am I going to do this, fill in the gray space, all of blah. It's like, dude, this whole entire chat has been uber positive. And so at the end of the day, find people that you can be around, that you can talk to, and you can be fully you with, because that's where the growth's going to happen. And at first it is going to be uncomfortable. It is. And while it might be comfortable for me to do the camera and the recording and the producing and all that, it's not like I'm like 100% on it all the time with this whole thing. This is way different for me. It's way easier for me to just write a funny script, pick up the guitar and nail it and walk away. Like 15-second KO, 3-minute knockout, first round. But is that really going to get me to the next level? No. So I've got to be positive in the fact that I've got this opportunity and that I've got people that support me and that we're all in this together. And so that's really our main message for the day is lean into the uncomfortable stuff. Some of those negative feelings are just you feeling this growth of moving into an uncomfortable space that's going to get you to the next level, and understanding that there is opportunity in everything you do. Everything. And you got to look for those spaces that you can fire through and get to those next levels, because you can't sit back and think that you're going to get there by not taking action. That's just, can't do that to yourself. You're selling yourself short, and you deserve better than that.
Yeah, don't play the what if game. Literally don't do that. If you think you have something that could be useful to yourself, to your family, to society, whatever the case is, like, give it a shot. Don't just sit and wait for someone to tap you on the shoulder and be like, hey, what are you thinking about? Like, maybe you should go do something. Like, no, just not everything's going to be perfect. Nobody's perfect. Just go ahead and do it. Jump in. You'll be fine. It's either going to crash and burn or it's going to be successful. If it crashes and burns, work yourself around it, go back and be like, hey, this didn't work. I wonder why. Don't be those people that they go in all in and then it crashes the first time. And then they're like, well, this didn't work. I must not be good enough for that. That's your own mind. That's not other people telling you that. That's literally your own mind. Other people will start chirping at you when you start becoming successful and you're failing more because you're putting in more work. That's when people will chirp at you. But if you crash the first time and you don't do anything about it, that's when it's on you. So you just got to keep moving forward.
I love it. Kristen, what do you want to tell the people before we roll out of this one?
I think really it's, pushing yourself forward a little bit more each day, like you had said, really going into those moments of being uncomfortable and letting you find your place in that uncomfortability, letting that next layer of you kind of come, and trusting your gut. I know that, he has scared me every step of the way when he brings me a new idea of something else that he wants to do, because that's not what I was used to. But, I trust him. I trust my gut, and my gut instinct is to follow along with him. Now, if I would let myself keep thinking, I'd talk myself out of a lot of it. So, you got to trust your gut, and don't, because you've got years and years of people telling you things aren't possible. Things aren't, these dreams are just dreams, and things like that. And those voices will get in your head. So you have to go with that initial gut feeling of, you know what, I can do this.
Right.
Keep that positive.
And use that other stuff as fuel. Listen, I mean, it's part of the game. I mean, if you played for a football team, there's the biggest football team in one division, and then you got to play against another football team that's the other biggest team in the other division, and the winner gets to go to the Super Bowl, and you're at the other team's stadium. What do you think's going to happen when they announce your name and you come out on the field? Boo!
out of here, man. Hell yeah.
Who cares? Those people are sitting in the stands. Okay? You're on the field. You're on the field of life. You're on the gameplay, field, and you are in control of the scoreboard of your life. So whatever's going to hit that scoreboard is you're in control. You're in control of the plays. You're in control of the playbook, the calls. You're the offensive coordinator. You're the defensive coordinator. Are you going to kick it? Are you going to punt? Are you going to run it? I always run it. When it's fourth down and I'm down by 50 points, I'm going for it. And the funny thing is that somehow I always seem to get past the opponent, because at the end of the day, your biggest opponent is always going to be you. So don't get in your own way. Stay positive. Sky and Kristen are here for you. I'm here for you. You can message our page. You hit us up anytime. We're always here to support you. This is all kind of pre-recorded. So when you see it compared to when we recorded it, I don't know, but today is Super Bowl Sunday. And we want you to experience the joy of winning the Super Bowl every single day of your life. So stay positive, be great, and we'll see you guys next time.
Later.
Bye.